Welcome back to Trinity 7 Anime Review Part 6. This is being technically the last thing for anime-wise released for the Trinity 7 anime, namely the second film, which is called the Sky. I think it's called the Heaven's Library and Crimson Lord. And unlike the first one, which is adapted from a light novel, this was actually adapted from the manga. Yes. Now this film basically, in a way, basically gives a lot of character development for Lilith and Anko. Yes, these two get a ton of character development here. Yes, you found a lot about these two in just this film alone. Now, of course, Arata basically gets a little bit of development too. Now, unlike the first film, this film was an hour long. Slightly longer, though, like in the case of the previous film, released 2 years after the OV was released, this film was released 2 years after the previous film. Yep. I'm not really sure why, but that's basically where it is. It's kind of weird. Let's see if I can find it here. Yes, it was released just last year, believe it or not. Excuse me, Nick. I know it was just last year that this film was released. Sorry about that. I don't want to basically get copyright strike for playing a little footage of this movie. Yeah, it just basically plays in the background, so it should be perfectly fine. Hopefully, anyways. Okay, this film was released, and it was released last year. This was released on March 29th, 2019. Like, pretty much a little over 2 years after the previous film. Yes, this film pretty much has basically development for, well, my phone is basically not charging properly. There we go, that's better. That's better. Okay, yes. The film itself pretty much delves into, like, it starts off a little differently. Now, this apparently covers the Sky Library arc, which covers chapters like 30, 37. I did take a look at it, so now I did saw the runtime line. They say it was 63 minutes. Apparently, it was like 3 minutes shorter. Okay, now the film itself has basically the awakening of the Crimson Lord. Yes, it starts off quite interestingly by having Arata, Anko, Lilith, and Mara, going to Anko's homeland. Now here's the thing. Unlike the previous film, which had a recap and TV show, this one didn't have one. As a matter of fact, it didn't even have a cool theme song credit sequence, which I thought that was kind of weird. Yeah, maybe they cut it out. I watched this on Crunchyroll, mind you. Maybe Crunchyroll decided to cut it up for timing purposes. They had an entire sequence, which that took up the last couple months of the film. Now, like the last one, which had post-credit scene, this film did not have post-credit scene. I'm not really sure why. It just didn't. Also, like with the previous film, was never dubbed. Despite the fact this film was released a year ago, like almost exactly 2 years ago, basically when it comes to March next year, and still no dub. I'm not really sure what the heck is going with Sentai Filmworks, where like you have an OVA and 2 films you could easily dub, and I'm sure you could release these films next year. Now there could be a couple reasons why they decided not to dub this stuff. Now maybe 27 didn't do too well for DVD sales. That's the reason why I heard a lot of dubs stop because of low DVD sales. That's the way it is a lot of the time. That probably happened with Trinity 7 anime, but at least the main series, they actually finished dubbing all 12 episodes. They didn't abruptly stop after just a short period of time, like some other series I've watched. Yes. Now, like, they kind of know exactly what happened to this particular homeland of Anko's. Apparently, it was destroyed via some floating island with a laser beam that act like the frickin' Death Star. And it turns out this is connected to Lilith. How? Because the Crimson King, who's apparently the demon lord from another dimension, mind you. Yeah, they explain it's from another world, basically another dimension. Yeah, this guy is in fact Lilith's father. Yep, this is her father. And her mother is apparently someone from his world. So basically, Lilith is the first character who actually is from the series who is from another world. What type of world was it? Apparently it was destroyed by the Demon Lord. Apparently his name is Trinity. That's apparently what this guy's name is. And he kidnaps Lilith because there's a jewel in her chest. A jewel that I don't think ever popped up in the main anime. I think you did see like a little thing on her chest, like a shirt whenever she wore it. Yes. So they had it where like he takes her and apparently he decides to open up her shirt. He does this a couple times to show off this. I mean, dude, this is your daughter and you want to see her naked for apparently no reason at all. Aside from the fact you're obsessed with a freaking jewel in her chest. By the way, they show later on in the film she has her transformation. She does nothing. Like, my gosh, she does nothing to like the end of the movie. So Arata basically goes to rescue her. So they kind of split teams up, basically deal with various things. Now, the team basically that goes to rescue her is, simply put, this. Now, it's most of the Trinity 7 minus Lisa, who actually, they brought her the camera on that contains her, though they do in fact have some stuff to deal with her. They also bring on Luna, the god of light, not thunder god. I thought that's what they call her in the English dub. And they brought on Hendry. So, because Hendry is her group is meant to kill Demon Lord, so why not kill this one? Okay, perfectly fine. So, if you're curious though, do we delve into Lilith's backstory? We delve a little bit into Anko's backstory, where her mother apparently dressed like she did, where she transforms dressed like a nun. Why the heck dressed like this for? No idea. So, that they apparently were just walking along, and then of course the thing was destroyed. Yeah, it's kind of weird. They show up her mother later on in the movie. I'll talk about that in a minute. So they go to the rescue, and they just blast their way through the Sky Library looking for Lilith, and eventually you have Arata fight the Crimson Demon King. Now this doesn't happen until about halfway into the movie when he finally ends up fighting her. Of course, Lilith, of course, is rescued by I think it's about several individuals. Also, Luke basically revealed that apparently because Arata groped her in the series, apparently he's like the only guy that she wants to marry. And he's like, oh, I'm flattered by it, but now is not the time for that. Yeah, he's like very interested in marrying her, just like I was interested in marrying probably all the Trinity 7, plus of course, he probably is interested in like all the girls. Also, I should point out that when she was in the last movie, despite the fact all the rest of the girls got stripped naked thanks to his power, she, along with Levy, never gets stripped naked for some reason. I don't know why. They just don't. It's kind of weird. So, he, of course, gets his hands on this thing called Jezebel. The Jezebel, I think that's how you pronounce it. It's his demon sword that this apparently is the demon weapon. So, he has to unlock it using like 3 Trinity. So, he has Lilith, he has Onkos, but he needs 3. But it doesn't start even with a 4th startup sequence. So, Lisa steps in, transports him to the freezing world, and basically has him suck up her magic. Of course, she also moves her top as well. And then, of course, his full transformation sequence by sort of in a way erasing magic, by apparently also shredding her shorts too, making her the first, I would say, in a way, the first Trinity 7 member to be shown completely naked in the series. They show other members naked, but they at least they covered up by something. She has nothing left on. And after absorbing her magic, she still basically is member 27 with him access to the archive. He's able to apparently bring her out of the freezing world. Yeah, he brings her out, and then basically she just puts on her clothes back on, puts on her cloak, and then she puts on her own outfit again. And then, of course, have everybody basically fight the Demon Lord. Lilith Transformers wearing this sexy attire, and it's implied that she's brainwashed by her own father. It doesn't really go anywhere. And of course, Arata basically frees her from it by using his magic to simply shred her clothing that she was wearing, and then apparently she just puts back on her normal Trinity 7 attire. And then, of course, her father basically goes frickin' nuts because he's jealous of Arata. Now, Arata, in a way, despite the fact, I don't think he even knows that the whole time. He just knows that he's basically the Crimson. He's basically another demon lord. He calls him Old Man, and and the fact that he even basically later goes to a later special mode, this combined 4 archive mode that he goes in. It kind of basically it's a step down from Paladin from the previous movie, and it basically uses this mode to basically kill the Demon King. And he says rest. Of course, he tells him rest in peace. Oh, also I should point out though, I forgot to mention this. When he's with Lisa, he does when she takes out the top, basically he does thank you for the feast. As far as I can tell, this is the third member of the Trinity 7 he said this to. He first said to Ari when he first met her, he said it to Mira in the OVA, and now he said it to Lisa. I would not be surprised if he said to the other members of the Trinity 7 later on in the series. Excuse me. Then eventually, of course, Demon King himself is defeated. And of course, we see when they get transported back to the real world. Also, we do see briefly the headmaster. He briefly appears in the movie. And I think the only thing he does is set up the Trinity 7. And of course, Anko gets a chance to see her late mother again one more time. Even Arata basically sees her. And for some reason, she doesn't say anything. I'm like, really? I mean, Arata, you're meeting the mother of one of the women who's got a thing for you. Yeah, it's real in the movie that she and Lisa are both madly in love with him. Yeah, they revealed this during the movie. And like, he sees her, and I'm like, dude, you mean the mother of one of the girls who likes you, and yet you don't say a word to her. Like, Anko's happy to see her, and yet she doesn't say anything. I'm like, what the heck is wrong? Why in the world would they do that for? Also, they never reveal who basically the name of the woman who's basically Lilith's mother. Yes, for some now here's the thing. Her real name is actually Lilith. Now Lilith is definitely her true name. That part of the name is true. And apparently her birth name is Azazel. Lilith Azazel. I'm like, really? So apparently with the name Lilith, like apparently she becomes this sexy demon. Like, okay. Fine. Also, she gets one of 2 women get a chance to actually one of 3 women get a chance to hug Arata in the movie. The other, of course, being Anko, like right after, like she sees her mother, and then of course everyone's like, "I want a hug too." And of course, he is also the sword stays with him after he defeats Demon Lord, and she basically becomes sort of a compressed, almost become a lot like a necklace for him. Also, like I said, hey, can you transform into a sexy woman? Which, by the way, she doesn't make human form in the manga, so at least they hint at that. And of course, Liv basically, wants to chastise him more, but then the movie just abruptly ends there. Which I'm like, really? You don't have a scene, like a post-credit scene, where they go back to school and Serena, who is actually briefly appearing in the movie, and she does reunite with her sister. I'm sure this is something that they probably... Excuse me. I'm sure it's something they probably wanted to do, but was probably cut for time. I'm not really sure of why some stuff was cut. It's kind of like in the version I watched, this is from Crunchyroll, mind you, that I kind of felt as though some stuff was cut for the movie. Let me list some examples. The name of Lilith's mother. Also, they missed the opportunity to show what the heck the previous world that the Demon Lord came from. Yeah, they don't show that here. Anko's mother, briefly seen, and no words are exchanged. I'm like, really? No post-credit scene. I'm like, really? First it was good. Except for the main villain. And, excuse me, what else? Let's see. Oh yeah! Arata does not ask him, what is the name of Lilith's mother? Or the fact he doesn't even find out this is actually her father. I don't think she freaking cares. Excuse me. I would think, though, that in the case of Lilith, this is basically meeting her father for her actual father. Of course, she doesn't believe she has any parents, and if she does have parents, and she's from another world, it's like not a lot of this stuff is really thoroughly explained. Maybe Crunchyroll has had to cut it for some reason. I don't know, because the runtime I saw for this movie on IMDb apparently is 63 minutes, while the Crunchyroll film time is 1 hour. I'm like, really? I get the fact IMDb can be edited, but I highly doubt that they would edit a freaking runtime, where apparently it's 3 minutes shorter than the last film. Well, 3 minutes shorter than the runtime we see here. I mean, this movie is only slightly longer than the first one, only about 5 minutes. I would say, aside from the obvious stuff that was not fairly explained, I'd say that we got a good pace. The movie's pacing is actually pretty good. I think the voice acting is still pretty good. And it's still traditional Trinity 7 stuff. Oddly enough, I like the previous one, which actually has scenes at the school. This one barely features the school. It's like mostly feature. Oh yeah, by the way, with his feet a demon lord, apparently his whole island's destroyed. Okay. Yeah, I get the fact that keeping the sword is probably a memento, basically, for mastering it. Fine, whatever. But somehow killing the demon lord results in destruction of his island. Yeah, that's not never actually explained. But it's a fun movie to watch, except that you're basically like so much logic and basically unnecessary cuts made this movie. I don't know if Crunchyroll did it or the fact the studio itself basically only made in Japan. If they were responsible for some of the like writing, the stumbling blocks in the writing of the script for this movie, where not a lot of stuff is still explained, and the fact of the lack of post-credit scene that this film probably really needed. Because one thing I wanted to see in this movie, if Lisa was going to come out of the freezing world, there would have been an awesome scene, like maybe like a non-verbal scene of her reuniting physically with her beautiful sister. And yet here, nope, not really. Though I do appreciate, though, they do show off the movie when he talks to Anko, that she is just important to him. Like, Hidri is not the only important to him. All the girls are important to him. So, at least they throw that in the movie as well. And it's interesting, though, Anko does it herself. She does get a lot of development. As a matter of fact, when it's revealed that he was responsible for destroying her homeland, Arthur's like, he throws like the first punch. Like that was for destroying basically her homeland and killing her mother. He's probably like, what? That was a test I did. Yeah, destroying a whole freaking country. At least they showed it, unlike that one school from the actual main series, where it just was destroyed somehow by one of Arata's grimoires. Yeah. But I do appreciate, though, that he gets some develop. Like, if you think of this movie overall, only 3 characters get development. Arata obviously gets development. Anko gets some development. I'd say that Lilith probably does somewhat get developed. But as for the rest of the members, as the rest of the characters movie, Hidri receives no development. She's there. Arata is very happy to see her. Aside from that, not really. Arn herself doesn't receive much development at all. I would say a lot of the Trinity 7 doesn't get much development. I would say I was the biggest development they have in the movie, aside from Lilith, Ardith, and Anko, is Lisa. Yes, that was a big plot development for her because she got out of the freezing world finally. She doesn't have to swap bodies with her sister again. Which, kudos to the fact that we include that in. But I think the overall story is good, but a lot of stuff basically left out, basically kind of felt as though the movie was missing some stuff. Yes, that's how I personally felt about it. But all in all, I would say it's a good movie, not great like the first movie was. This movie is definitely good. So, overall, good points. Animation, voice acting, the action, the pacing is actually pretty good. Surprisingly for an hour-long movie. And let's see, what else? The character development for the characters who did get character in the movie, which that was actually pretty good. I would say the only characters who receive no development. Well, I would say that Lucia, who is the light light, she actually does receive a little bit of development. I would say the only characters who have development this whole movie is Levi, Aaron, Hedri. You surprisingly does not receive any development at all, despite the fact she received some development in the main series, but yet not in this movie for some reason. So I would say about half the cast don't. It's kind of strange that the headmaster, his appearance is nothing more than just a one scene cameo, and like, that's it for him. As for why in the world of visiting Uncle's homeland, it's kind of it's like they skip some stuff basically when you start watching this movie. That's all kind of around for us to fill up. I kind of felt this as they probably should have showed off with how the actual arc itself started in the manga instead of just jumping to here. Yeah, that's just my personal guess. There probably was like a prelude to this movie, but I didn't see anything online. As far as I can tell, this is the last thing to release animation-wise for the studio that made this one. And here's something strange though. This film was actually the last movie released by 7 Arc Pictures before they were actually a subsidiary of a different studio, and apparently these subsidiaries were merged into one. And somehow the studio's not bothered to do anything else with Trinity 7. It's been like almost 2 years since this film came out. I mean, they could in fact do another season for the show. There's plenty of manga to go through. Yes, I do agree that there's still plenty of source they could adapt from it. It all depends upon 7 Pictures. That's the studio who now owns the rights to the series, basically, where they have the right to make the series. That may be the reason why we haven't had a season 2, and this is my personal theory. I think this film probably didn't do too well at the box office. I think the first film did pretty well at the box office to warrant this film. But in the case of the reason why we have anything else with Trinity 7, is because the end of the studio and the fact probably this film probably didn't do too well at the box office. Money is probably the reason why. But there's nothing that says we can't have a season 2. I personally love it. Okay, so that's it for this particular review, and that's it for this series, mind you. But I'm doing that video today. I'm doing a comic corner. I'm discussing 2 flash trades. Now, what anime am I going to do next? Monster Go Doctor. Yep, I actually started reading the first book today. I probably won't get to the anime probably for another week, I'd say, because I have a lot of light novels to read. Because along with reading the 3 main light novels, the first week, because that's what the series adapts from, I'm also reading other books, like books 8 and 9 of The Rise of Hero, and a couple of my physical books. So overall, I'd say about 9 books altogether I'm reading. Probably a bit less. It depends on when I get a chance to finish these books. That's why I probably watch the anime. Or I can probably watch the anime after I finish reading the first book. It's possible. It depends on what I do, okay? But this next video, which is the Comic Corner. Bye!